The Virtual World Society. Join us in building better realities together.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting Virtual World Society Fireside Chat with Tom Furness, the founder of the Virtual World Society, and his special guest. My name is Laurel. I am the Director of Educators in VR, and we produce this event along with many other events in the metaverse, in VR, in spatial computing. You can call it anything you want. We're here. We've been doing this for, I think it's over three or 4 years now, and we're very, very excited to have Tom's special guests here with us, Ariane, and I'm going to let him do the introduction. Let's go.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you once again, Laurel, you and your team for the marvelous work that you do in partnership with us. And it's a delight to have all of you join us. One of the things that is a joy to me is to have these amazing people that sit across in this chair. We both feel the heat from the fire. And this is a proper fireside chat. And it's not just a one-way thing, but from us to you, it's really a two-way thing. And here a little bit later on, we're going to have a chance for you to not only ask questions, but ask for your opinion on some things. So Let me first introduce Ariane Fikki. And Ariane is, so you hear, this is what Ariane really looks like, but she really looks like this too. It's going to, really sort of quite a similarity there. And Ariane is, in her current role, is the global ambassador of the Virtual Reality, Augmented Reality Association, and certainly a partnership with us here at the Virtual World Society. We'll be hearing more about that in a few minutes. But Ariane has also has quite a few other interests and a very interesting background. And so, as I usually like to do with our guests at the Fireside Chat, is ask you about your childhood and what it was like growing up, and especially the interaction you've had with your parents and how they've influenced the direction you've taken in your life.
Oh, well, I just want to give a really big thank you from not only the VRARA Association for having me here, but also from me and my family, because this space has been really important in my ability to participate and empower others through leadership and connectedness. And we could never have been here in this exact location, all of us coming together from all over. And so I'm just really excited about what's next and what we've already accomplished in the last so many years. I know it's just a little bit of time as far as your experience here. You've been doing this for a very long time, but for us who are late to the party, fashionably late to the party, it's really an exciting time right now. And so thank you so much. As far as my childhood, gosh, when I think about now and the things that I'm doing now in this space, it was an incredible childhood. I played outdoors a lot. We drank from the hose, I'll be honest, in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas City, and my mom had 4 children, and so we lived in a middle-class home in a middle-class neighborhood in the center of the United States. In the summer, we went outside, and we had the screen door was locked, but if we came in, we had to stay, and if we were out till the sun went down. And so a lot of exploration. And we had a neighborhood gang of kids that I still know a number of them today in my adulthood. It was a really wonderful experience for sure. When I was maybe 11, 12, maybe 10, 11, 12, my mom was a homemaker. My dad was a business owner. He's an immigrant that came to the United States and served his country in the Army, and then used the GI Bill to go to school, and he studied science. He's a scientist. He initially was a chemist, and he created a environmental waste at that time disposal company that was when the EPA was first forming way back then and regulating, and decided with success in that business, he sold that and decided to go back to school and became, with the inspiration of some incredible professors and colleagues, one of the first Java developers. He was actually named in a few books as the Amir of Java. He was early on. And now I understand a little bit more, but at that time it was just my dad was doing neat things and we had the internet in our home, compared to like maybe most people knew the internet in the 90s as being something they went to school and experienced, right, in the library. And we had the internet in our home. And it just seemed normal to me, to work on Java applets with him. At that time, that's what they were called, applets. And he had a program that he worked very closely with developers across the world, and they were innovating before really everybody knew what Java was. And so I was part of that and really inspired as a young girl, watching my scientist father do really cool and brave things, starting something from nothing, but a lot of passion and a lot of technical expertise. So, and then my mom also going back to school in her late 30s with 4 children and studying women's studies as well. Yeah, women's studies, and getting her education and going on to get her master's, both my parents. And I was really inspired by seeing them on their individual journeys and doing things that were important and felt purposeful. So yeah, that's what my childhood was like. Lots of fun outdoors, a lot of science. And yeah, that's really what it was. And yeah, that's it.
So I understand you went over from there to, you graduated from your young life into motherhood. And
I did. I actually, yes. Yeah, I got married fairly early on. I'm the mom of 3 boys, so I live that life. If anybody knows what that's like, it's a fun experience every day. My oldest is Cameron, is serving this great country in the Army in Colorado Springs, and then I have 2 younger boys who are in just finishing elementary and then in middle school. So still some young kids in the house, and really inspired by them. Sprinkled in with, I worked in higher education and schools that focus on healthcare, technology, a variety of different types of training in those domains. And so I worked in that industry for a number of years, learned a lot about training and development and education in higher education realms. So.
Well, in addition to that, while you were doing that, you also were quite a promoter. You were an ambassador in several roles. And how did that get into your blood?
That's really an interesting story. Some of you here know a little bit more about my story, but I, like some of you, had also experienced Meta put out the Quest 2. And I purchased one and realized early on there was a lot more to this. I started to explore that and met incredible leaders in our community like Paige and Rob and a variety of other individuals in XR spaces. And I was really inspired, and I was working in a great career and I loved what I was doing. But I realized maybe there was more to what was happening in XR. And so I decided to, with the encouragement of my great friend Paige, to volunteer at the VRAR Immersive Global Summit in Miami. Some of you may have been there. It was a couple years back. It's quite the experience. And I went there because I wanted to find out if this space was for me and if I should maybe think about making a change to be part of a bigger mission. And I realized very quickly that that was the case, and I really didn't have a choice because it sucked me in very quickly. And then within a few months of that incredible experience, meeting incredible leaders in this space through the VRARA, John Cunningham, he was working at Unity, the director of the Government Aerospace and Defense team at Unity, connected with me and asked me to be part of the team. And I did. I took on that experience and learned a lot really quick. And I have to say, he encouraged me to be audacious, make a lot of friends, and learn a lot. And I did so. And I fell in love with the simulation industry here in Orlando. And we have, maybe a $7 billion simulation industry here in Central Florida. I know that you have experience in that realm. And it's just an incredible community here, and a lot of you may have experience with that, but incredible community of individuals in military, in the supporting cast of characters from aerospace, defense, and so on that are here, and we're almost like a family of unique individuals working together in this place that we call the meta center of the world. And so it's a really special place, and the Central Florida chapter of the VRARA, which is Virtual Reality, Augmented Reality Association, for those who maybe are new to that. We are the largest chapter here in Central Florida because of this incredible busy ecosystem of community, technologists, innovation. And, just to kind of give some examples, of the VRARA, just a little bit about that. The VRARA was actually founded actually by Nathan Pettyjohn, who's a fellow Missourian like myself, back in 2015. And it's an association that was created to really connect the community of innovators, thought leaders, developers, business people who are really, utilizing virtual reality, augmented reality, and so much more to walk us into the future of the 3D internet. And so we now have, over 50 chapters worldwide and growing. And maybe 60,000 subscribers to our newsletter. I think that's actually a low estimate, because some of the universities who are members, all of their student body are also members. So we have to think about that, right? But individuals. And so it's really, the programs are really developed in major cities, across the world, and designed to foster research, assist with developing standards, promoting the businesses of our members, and connecting on technologies that they're making as well. And so that's really what it's all about. And so I became very involved with that team and working here, spent time at Unity learning how our customers were using the incredible Unity real-time 3D engine, right? Which is a really important tool, just one of the important tools, but a very important one to walk us into the future of the 3D internet. And it made me kind of pause and think back, Tom, about those times where I was working on things with my dad. If you think about things that maybe you guys worked on with your family in that kind of environment, and he would talk about the Internet of Things. And I'm, 11, 12 years old, a young girl, thinking, wow, Dad, that sounds really interesting and impossible. How is that even going to exist? And fast forward now, 30 years later, we live in the Internet of Things. It's just really moving fast, and we're seeing even more, right? And he would talk about things like, smart homes, and, TVs and phones that were connected digitally, and we could gather information, and you could talk to things using, at that time, the Java programming language, and a variety of tools. And so for me, I imagine a world where anything was possible. And when I came to this exact place and being part of this incredible group of people at the VRARA, which is large companies, small game shops, studios, individual groups who are innovating, and startups. And it was like the great equalizer where everybody could participate and actually contribute. So it was really magnificent. And so for me, it was like anything's really possible here. And then more so, I started to experience, interactions with incredible people where, it was like an expanded we talked about this a little bit, an expanded experience beyond the three, I don't know how I would say it, when you think of like quantum and everything, but, the three experiences that we have, when you think about space and time, right, and 3 dimensions, right? It's like, wow, you can have these incredible experiences with people and kind of expand your presence in a higher dimension, in a sense. So it was really neat. And so, so I got really involved and then started participating, learning about our customers, working with, incredible customers like with the DoD and Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and incredible groups like Spectre XR, and big DoD giants that work with government like Booz Allen Hamilton, some of my favorites, and and it was really neat to see this ecosystem developing, and I wanted to be part of it. So I continued on, and that's what brought me to developing the Global Ambassador Program and founding it this last year. And we have 5 global ambassadors. I'm the director, founding director. And it was a way to connect everybody in maybe a fragmented system of people working so hard and innovating, but to connect us so that we could actually get together and help each other with resources, with events, with memberships, with all the things that needed to happen to build the ecosystem. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and that's how we got here.
So can you tell us what the basic objectives are of the ambassadorship?
Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned
course.
it's sort of the kind of things that you're trying to accomplish, but what is the high level?
Yeah, I think it's important when we think about anything, whether it's the VRAR or Virtual World Society, or you think of like AWE or all these incredible players in the game, is that the real important steps are collaboration. We can't go far unless we're working together. And I think we recognize that. A lot of us do. The biggest successes have happened when we got beyond ourselves and worked together with others who have unique experiences and diverse backgrounds to draw from, right? And so what I envisioned and what we're implementing is a way to not only collaborate and support our chapters to help them develop maybe all of the things that are necessary to have a thriving chapter with memberships and events and connecting individuals who are working on great technologies, but also to connect with partners out there. Because if we're going to ask people to collaborate, we ourselves have to also collaborate, right? And so I think leading by example and showing the world, this is how we get there, and we do it together. And it's not as scary and tedious as we think. It's so much easier if we do it together. And so the goal is to not only connect our members with each other on a global scale, support the members as the chapter as the chapters actually kind of grow, but also to connect the VRAR with other groups that we can collaborate on to really develop the framework in this ecosystem that's like a fertile environment for innovation, creation, and for us to make the progress that's necessary. I think that many people here may understand that innovators are working incredibly hard, and everybody's working super hard and kind of in their own little silos. And then they realize that maybe we're doing double the work sometimes, or that maybe there's resources or things that I have that maybe, a Paige doesn't have, or Helen does have, and that we can really get so much further if we kind of work together. And so the goal is to help build the ecosystem within the VRARA for our members, and then also to connect with other groups like the Virtual World Society, which is doing very important work. And I think it's really important to what the Global Ambassador Program is doing, is that remembering and keeping centered that we're using our superpowers and innovations for good, right? And that we're in alignment with a mission, because anything can be used or misused or abused, right? And then you lose the effectiveness and all of that, and harm can be done. So I think keeping that in alignment with the goals, and if that's a strength of yours and we have other strengths, if we collaborate and we can keep that at the core of what we're doing, we'll go really far and really fast. So.
Well, when we had our nice little chat yesterday and talking about sort of what we're trying to put a circle around these kind of things that you were doing. One of the things that intrigued me was you've sort of got hooked on doing some things in space with the Space Force and things like that. So tell us a little bit about that. That's really fascinating.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Tom. Yes. So with my time here, obviously here in Central Florida, where I'm at, I spend my time, we are, a hub for a lot of interesting things with simulation. And, that we have the developing, it's a spaceport. It used to be, it's just, it used to be one thing, but now we call it a spaceport. So when we think about airports, we now have a spaceport here. And instead of airlines, we have companies like Blue Origin or SpaceX or Axiom. Those are the airlines of the future, if that makes sense, right? And so we have a very full spaceport of incredible organizations that are working really hard to help develop the space. It's actually a developing space economy. And through my time with Unity and then also with some of the community members, I was able to participate in a number of great conferences here in the area and other places. But one of the programs I worked with was the Space Force Association, which is also a global organization. It's led by Bill Wolf. Maybe you know him as Hippie, Bill Hippie Wolf. That's his call sign. And his really incredible team of individuals. And John Cunningham actually worked with Master Sergeant Mike Sullivan to create what is called the Creators League. And at the time it was built in Unity. And it's an incredible program for Guardians, which are the soldiers of the Space Force, to connect and create these teams that take on the challenges of the military, like, or challenges for good, right? So they can do these game jams or hackathon type setups where they can create awesome experiences and technologies that help us innovate. So that was a really neat experience to have and work with them. And the Space Force actually had their first Space Power Conference, Space Force Association, excuse me, their first Space Power Conference last year in December. And it was really incredible. I can't tell you, it was standing room only. And General Chance Saltzman addressed the crowd, and General Purdy was there, and all these incredible community members who are doing neat things in the space. And they talked about important things, and what I mean by that, just to give you an example, and some of you may know this, but right now, if we have to fly supplies somewhere, say we have to fly them to South Korea, it might take a C-17, 18 hours, cost, a few $1 million to get there with supplies. But if you think of it like this, if you have a rocket that goes up in the matter of an hour and 20 minutes, supplies can be in the same place. And so with reusable rockets, with companies like Stoke Space and other companies developing awesome reusable rocket material and things of that nature to make things more cost effective, we can reimagine what that looks like. And then also maybe even imagine getting packages from Amazon from satellite repositories. I need paper towels, and I can have them in 20 minutes and they can come down, right? So that sounds wild, but it's really true. And so we have this huge space domain, and unfortunately it's part of it, but you have to also imagine there is a race to the moon. And what I mean by that is, by 2040, our partners at NASA have been very open about the fact that their goal is to have a base on the moon by 2040, which is 16 years away. And there's a lot of energy around that. And imagine if you have, other countries looking at Earth from space, Earth from the moon. What does that look like from a safety perspective, right? And how do we navigate that? And so it's not to cause fear. It's just that we have to be smart and try to, make these technologies that help us keep people safe, and still pursue our goals and missions. So there's all these unique things happening in this very interesting space. And we do know that it's much easier and much more economical, and for safety purposes, great to rely upon simulation to problem solve these experiences. And so often a lot of game developers find themselves working in these spaces as well to support that developing space economy, from schools like University of Florida and UCF and Full Sail. So there's a variety of that happening here. But I've really fallen in love of what that looks like and how I can support, I guess you could call it, the beyond, because really it's about everything between here, Earth, and the moon for now, and ultimately, eventually Mars. And how does that impact our relationships with each other here? And also, how do we maintain the ability to use those technologies for good, truly? So I think that the thing to remember that I always think of is recently NASA, just a day or two ago, put out what is like the NASA, I call it the NASA's S3 guide. It's like a volume 1, and some of you may have seen that. But their approach to sustainability, lunar sustainability, really is about 4 operational domains to think about. And that's Earth orbit, the orbital area near and around the moon. And that's actually called cislunar. I learned about that from Cam Ghaffarian, who spoke at the Power Source conference a few months ago. He's the founder of IBX, you may be familiar, and also he is Axiom Space and Intuitive Machines, and then Quantum Space. But cislunar was something that was new for me. And so that first volume was put out, and that's a really good read if you're interested in that and what that means. But the message that he gave during that conversation, and I'm grateful to say that Dr. Crystal Johnson is doing incredibly hard and important work at NASA. And let me just tell you, she's somebody to really look up to. And she put all of these great, incredible people in the room, and I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but I was really inspired when I was there. And I thought I have a great responsibility to do as much as I can to support this. So, but it's really unique to know that we can make an impact, and that space is democratized and space is for everyone, and that we all can have a part in this. And that's just another nod to the fact that as creators, we have all these incredible tools, and that we really need to put emphasis on the next generation of how we can provide all this support and all these tools so that they can start thinking about what that means for them, because we do have a responsibility to try and leave the earth a little better than we found it. And then if we're going beyond the earth, it applies the same. I do believe that. So yeah. So I think that we're seeing some development of like space policy kind of happening now. We're seeing some talk about space policy. And it's important that the responsibility for exploration and innovation, and by really engaging with young people and the next generation, we're not just really preparing them with the necessary training, which is really important, but also the challenges of tomorrow, because the challenges we have today will be very different. There'll be a new set of challenges for sure for tomorrow. And we need to tap into their fresh perspectives. And we also need to include problem solvers from other socioeconomic situations. We have incredible power in our diversity, and tapping into that. Sometimes, letters behind our name aren't the only thing that give us great experience, right? We have to also tap into actually people who live the experiences of being great problem solvers from diverse backgrounds and unique situations as well. So so we just really have a great responsibility as emerging leaders to support that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What is unfolding, and one of the things that of course, I grew up with Star Trek. And because I was an older guy,
Yes.
even when Star Trek came along, but I loved it because
What year was that, Tom?
oh gosh, whenever it began, when the first airing of with Captain Kirk and Spock and the guys and the girls, but that was, to me, I was so excited. I was into rocketry anyhow as a young kid. Starting at 14, I was shooting up my own rockets, and this was when we started orbiting satellites and things like that. And so I was really intrigued by it. I met the original Mercury astronauts and got a chance as a 16-year-old to spend a whole hour with Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom and John Glenn. I mean, and I wanted to be an astronaut. I want to be those guys. But one of the things that in the end I couldn't become an astronaut because my eyes weren't good enough. I was a flight test engineer in the Air Force and flying in Phantoms and testing equipment. So I was boring holes through the sky. But what really, my role became one that I never had anticipated, which was that the technology to simulate, to train the astronauts, for example, the Hubble Space Telescope repair was done with technology that I invented that was used to train those astronauts. And I got a chance to actually fly myself at NASA Houston and to see how this equipment was used in EVA and repairing the Hubble Space Telescope, flying in the cargo bay of the space shuttle. And I realized, wait a minute, I am in space.
Yes.
I am an astronaut. I'm in virtual space. I was seeing the Earth below me, the moon and the stars, and I was there. And see, that's the wonderful thing that what this technology brings to us. Only a very few people are going to get a chance to go to the moon.
That's right.
To begin with, especially. But we all can go to the moon. And there is an amazing a man by the name of Frank White who published a series of books now about the overview effect. And the overview effect is what the astronauts experienced when they saw the Earth from the moon and from the spaceships around the Earth. And it changes you. It changes your whole attitude about this beautiful blue orb. And you don't see any country lines. There are no nations when you look from space down to the Earth. It's just this one beautiful blue orb. And it makes you realize that what a stewardship we need to have in terms of protecting the Earth.
Yes.
And then, and we with simulation, and for that matter, being able to look through the astronauts' eyes when they are on the moon coming up, we'll get a chance to be there. Sort of like we did when the original Apollo astronauts put their first foot on the moon. And so that really, just looking into the future, you mentioned beyond, looking into that gives us a way to think about the future, and that from the moon to Mars to the stars, it's all out there, places to explore, but there are also inner spaces to explore. Yeah. I mean, we can shrink ourselves down to 1 micron high and go inside atoms and in the body and things like that. And so this incredible technology that we're all about has an opportunity to move minds. And with that, I didn't mean to take over the conversation here, but you just got me so turned about that. I was just watching, by the way, on my Vision Pro, my Apple Vision Pro. I was watching Gravity, the movie Gravity.
Yes.
In 3D. Oh, it's awesome. Wow. And I mean, you have this huge screen. You're right there in the middle of it. And anyhow, I realized that how one little mistake that was made by another country in orbit pretty much brought down everything, brought down the space station, everything. And that's why it's so important for us to do simulations and to do no harm, and to realize that we make a mistake, we can hurt a lot of people with this. And that's, in space, of course, we could hurt a lot of people. Here we explode an atom bomb or hydrogen bomb.
But it's just a different set of rules. And we spoke about this yesterday when I shared with you that I had taken a class that I highly suggest if anybody's looking. It's not only the work that we do technologically, it's the work we're doing within ourselves. And you hit it right on the head that as we start to work in these spaces and we think about people living on the moon, like a moon base, and maybe even people being born on the moon, right? Humanity on the moon, and what that means, and that we are imperfect. And we, can you imagine if we don't do the inner work now to be our best? I don't know that there's a mental health day when you're on the moon. Like, you kind of have to be like, and I'm not being insensitive, it's just a little bit different of an experience if you make a mistake because you're having a bad day, which we all have had, or a rough experience, or one mistake could cost everyone's life, right? So it's interesting. So there's this program called Space Kind. You should definitely look it up. Christina Starr and her awesome crew at Space Kind. There's a program where this is a bunch of space professionals from Blue Origin and, Worldwide Technologies and SpaceX and all astronauts. And we're in this group and we're doing work and we're reading along with Dr. Loretta Whiteside's incredible book. And I have to tell you, if you haven't learned about that, the program's called Cosmic Citizen, and it's incredibly valuable to kind of harness the important things that you're working on with yourself and tackle those as we can get better to tackle the challenges of the earth and beyond. And I will tell you, it was really life-changing, and I made some really great relationships from that were meaningful. But it never hurts to work on yourself a little, right? So that was one of the little tips, as we tackle those challenges, for sure.
Well, Ariane, and now this might be a good time if you have any questions you'd like to ask the audience. We're going to get the audience a chance to ask you.
Yeah.
But you get a chance
Yay.
first to ask them anything that they might. We'll ask them whatever you want to ask them.
Yeah.
We have lots of wonderful folks here.
Yeah.
And you'll all be able to, one at a time, play nice.
Mhm.
You'll be able to just unmute yourself and answer. So the first question is?
What's your question?
Oh, for me. Okay, first.
Ariane?
Yes. So, can you hear me? All right.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting somebody. There's a little bit of delay, I think. My first question would be, as individuals in here, some of you might be your first time being in here, but if you aren't, if you're in the industry, what is it that you're looking forward to most when it comes to XR? And what is, I would say, what are you looking forward to the most when it comes to what's next in XR? That's what I
think
ask.
Helen's jumping at the bit. Go for it, Helen.
Yeah.
F1 unmutes.
Oh, I wasn't actually, but well, I can still answer. I was just looking around. I can, for me, it's social. For me, everything in VR is the social connections that I make,
Mm-hmm.
and the life-changing experiences you can have in VR. It was interesting, Tom, that you brought up the overview effect. They have it in the VR chat, and if you haven't visited it, it is incredible and very, very moving experience. And I think this will bring us together. It will bring us closer together. It already is bringing us closer together. And I am somebody who I realize this is not something that's going to happen overnight or will be easy, but I'm looking forward to a borderless society where we are global citizens. Something I firmly believe in. Also, as an immigrant myself, it's very important to me that people are able to move and live where they want. So, the social impact VR has is
Beautiful.
what I look forward to.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I would,
Who else?
I would add on to that, Helen. I've had the great opportunity to work with Helen and Ben and their team and with Polly's and connecting and supporting. And I have to tell you, she's hit it right on the head. And there's really like a sense of presence that you can experience, unlike any other place where you can get together with people that you may have never crossed paths with. And my projects that I've worked on with Paige, with Women in Horizons, where we've developed incredible summits where we can get together and discuss ideas and technologies and business, or even Golden Avenue and Horizon Worlds, where people have storefronts and they're exchanging business, they're selling services and products and whatnot. And I've been really inspired by the ability. I kind of think of it like children. If you've maybe heard before that what makes children so unique is their ability to stay in the present, right? And we kind of lose that as we get older with life and get jaded and the everyday woes of being responsible adults. But in this space, I think what's really unique is our ability to be in the moment. We really do have that ability here, and kind of forget the things that maybe weigh us down, and the ability to be present and to be curious, to have wonder that you talk about, and that anything's possible, and that what we imagine we can create is a really incredible feeling. And being able to do that with others is even more important. So yeah.
Wonderful. Anyone else want to have a comment to answer a question? Just unmute and speak up. Okay, John, go for it. Wait a minute, John first, then Bruce. We have 15 minutes left, so please keep it brief.
Thank you, Laurel.
All right, thanks, Laurel. Ariane, I would just want to say that what I'm looking forward to and what's exciting about where the XR industry has come so rapidly in the last 10 years is how much more rapidly the next 10 years will bring us to significant change throughout not just the Western United States or the Western hemisphere, but the entire planet, and that ability for how will that impact education,
Right.
how people decide where they're going to work, how they're going to, get their entertainment. I look at how Facebook changed its branding to Meta to have a metaverse. The idea of a metaverse, it will probably include in about 5 to 6 years a opportunity for businesses to start their businesses, to create their business inside the metaverse for the purpose of have your people work inside that, come to the metaverse or come to the Appleverse or whatever one it is. And then while they're there, that organization understands the interest of what that workforce is, so that then they can market those interests still within that metaverse after they're done with work or during their breaks in work, and potentially never taking that, or their break isn't a smoke break outside, or going to a lockbox and checking their cell phone and text, but instead is just jumping into another space. So I'm just looking forward to how rapidly that's gonna impact
it's
us.
It's here already.
Yes, it is. And John, the thing that I always think about is my first experience with a metaverse was back when I was that young girl, and the Internet of Things, which is just one pillar, right? The Internet of Things, which is kind of in all of the pillars actually, but you have like AI, and I'm just throwing them out there you have like digital twins, you have XR, you have blockchain, and we're really building those pillars now, right? And once there's interconnectivity and all systems are talking, then we really have a metaverse, right? But the only way to really quantify what we experience right now is really to call it a place like a metaverse. And so even though I know what that really means, we all still use that term very loosely, because what do you really call this, right? Because it's still developing and at lightning speed. And it's a very unique place to be in, and I appreciate that response very much so. Training is so, oh gosh, let me just tell you, when I first started in my first professional career back at a nursing school in Stuart, Florida, they had a lab for nurses, and it was, this lab probably cost, at least $100,000. And there was a heavy expert, I guess you could call it a mannequin dummy that was, a computer, and you could have maybe 1 or 2 students with the rest of the students around it. And I thought there's got to be a better way, to really get experience. And look where we're at now and the incredible things happening. I mean, I can tell you, I visited some of our customers in Jacksonville, and they're building incredible maintenance trainers out of kind of retired Black Hawk helicopters, is what I experienced. But, they can train a helicopter pilot in the real world, and it's very expensive and can be somewhat dangerous, and the cost of fuel and all the resources, maybe in almost 300 days, a little shy of that. But in addition to, not instead of, with VR, maybe it takes them 71 days, right?
Right.
And less, and that's, and the retention. And one more thing, I last year got to experience, WATS, the World Aviation Training event here in Orlando, and I'll be going again this year. And Andy and his team put together an incredible event. There's still pilots right now with major airlines being trained on paper. It's unbelievable to me in the world that we're in. So it's a choice to to kind of, to really step ahead and integrate things like virtual reality and simulation into the everyday programs. A lot of these schools are moving students across the country. We have a very challenged education system from kindergarten or pre-K all the way through college for sure. And so, it's not instead of, but we do have a responsibility to implement things to make things more efficient and effective and to help students really get to where they need to be, because we're not going to get there if we keep doing what's not working.
Right. And I'll just add one last thing.
Quick, please.
Tom mentioned the overview effect, and how the astronauts look at the planet once they're up in space. That think of the overview app that you can get in today and experience that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was a part of middle school curriculum or even high school, in the moment somebody got into a science class, the first experience they had before the teacher even talked to them about what the subject's going to be the rest of the year, potentially put them inside something like that to expand what their potential interest is. Thanks for taking the question.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
All right, Bruce, can you keep it short?
Yeah, I'll keep it short.
Okay.
The thing is,
Thanks.
it's like you mentioned about the physical delivery of kind of products through kind of satellite delivery processes, and Tom also mentioned about the virtual process through simulation with kind of like the Hubble and kind of looking at how you can go. For me, what's kind of really interesting is, and obviously we're here as educators in VR and kind of looking at that side about actually the opportunity to share knowledge and to share experiences. And I think that that's the future kind of within VR and AR, of that we can transmit knowledge kind of very quickly by immersing ourselves. Exactly. And I think that that's the kind of the fascinating thing about it. And as soon as we can get to shared platforms, shared simulations, but also simulations that allow you to fail so that you can learn through your mistakes and learn through failure and learn through kind of like what would happen if. And so that for me is like, how do we end up, or how does the future kind of embody all of that, where we can end up bringing the greatest educators into the same room, or we can reduce those miles and kind of like the kind of the greener kind of option of putting conferences all in one. So that's like my kind of like future in kind of a very nutshell.
I think that's a really great perspective and very valid. Is it's still, there's so many people are trying to figure it out, right? And like, we're here right now, we've been here for about 45 minutes or 50 minutes now, and some people don't have that much time in this space, and maybe we talk about it in Paige as well, is that most of the individuals that I know, they only need, it's almost instant once they're here and they see and understand the potential, it's the game's over. Like, they know what they need to do. It's just getting everybody here to understand that, and that yes, students can take apart a whole diesel engine in an economy that has a shortage of domain knowledge individuals who have like the trades, which the trades are what are really going to support us into the space economy. Just so you know, we don't, with all the technology we have, we have the ability to do the stuff that's complicated and have the tools to help us. We really need people learning engineering at the domain level. And that's very valid. Also creators and artists. And so to be able to offer the access of being able to take a course and look at an engine or look at a heart or a brain or whatever it is in a headset, and before you take the course, and to kind of experience and expose, it does work as an incredible tool of reinforcement. And we know the outcomes are, again, not instead of, but in addition to, very positive and reinforcing.
Okay, thanks for that.
This has been wonderful. We have 5 minutes. Tom?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I hate that this is so short. We could talk for hours.
We will probably before it's over. So what we should do is just pause for a second. Let me just mention a few things up on the charts. Why don't we advance to the next one, and we'll come back to Ariane here in a minute. We have coming up in the Virtual World Society a big event taking place in Long Beach, California, the AWE. 2024, going to be an amazing event. We'll have
Yes.
a booth there, the Virtual World Society. We'll have a number of things going on. I will be giving a talk on why we need a super cockpit for the mind. So wonderful things happening there. You can get a discount code. You see the discount code there for 20% off for members in the AWE, as well as those who attended our events. So look at VWS 20 as the code for that. Next slide. We also have the next Fireside Chat coming up in the it's normally the fourth Thursday of every month on May the 30th. And we'll be having a Julian Reyes from the XR Guild. And he's a very interesting character that you'll enjoy hearing from him. And then next, want to remind you of of our podcasts. Maxwell McGee that has been interviewing a number of people. I'm sure Ariane will be you'll be on the list for that coming up as well.
Yes.
And is that we have another slide? I can't remember if we have one more. Oh yeah, of course, the big one. Join the Virtual World Society. Go
Yes.
online to us, and hopefully you not only join, but you roll up your sleeves and get involved in our activities and the projects like the Super Cockpit for the Mind. We have a Science and Ethics Council. We have a Home Spark project. Number of different activities underway. So in concluding, let's go back to Ariane for just a second. I think we may have time for just one short question and then give Ariane a chance to sum up. Okay?
Yeah,
one
thank you.
question.
All right, someone have a very, very quick question? Okay, Rob, 10 seconds or less.
So in your Global Ambassador partner, you're partnered with other organizations, right?
That's right. So
Yeah.
we actually have a developing partnership with the Virtual World Society, the XR Association, which is working with in DC to develop policy to help keep things, in alignment with, the goals of the industry, but also important to, keep everything on the up and up. And we have a partnership with the Power Source Summit, which was one of the projects of Dr. Crystal Johnson from NASA and her team that worked with that particular summit to help facilitate conversations in this space as well. So yes.
And hopefully with educators in VR soon.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and
Again,
that's one of the
yes.
things I would tell you is that there's a really hard push to doing things from, and I'm not a representative of NASA, I want to first state that, but they're asking for innovators and people who are making technologies to, they don't have time to wait. They want a hard push to start making cool things that make sense for the developing space domain, to help us have lunar sustainability, to tackle challenges that we don't even know exist yet, right? Because we're not there. And so there's a hard push for that. But I think the thing I wanted to leave with is, first of all, we have a VRAR summit coming up. It's the Enterprise Summit. I believe it's July 24th. It's an online event. I'd love to have you all there. You can definitely register maybe for that event. If you want to look at thevrara.com, you can become a member, connect with us, ask questions, however we can support you. But also to think about one of the things I took from our conversation yesterday, Dr. Furness, is that there's a lot of suffering in our world, and a lot of times XR, VR, all of this really, it does, like Helen said, the ability to connect with others is such a powerful thing. And I'm hopeful, because we know that hope is a powerful thing, that if we can all really dig deep and get in touch with what it is that we hope for when it comes to this space, for humanity, for technology, for good. I think that, that is really what's important. And XR will allow, you have to think about allowing humanity to imagine the possibilities without or with very little limitation. And we have to be present, like I mentioned earlier, like children do before they lose that special ability with the wears and tears of life. And remember, to really exist in the moment with each other, what's really important, no matter how far technology goes, is that the humanity behind it and our interaction with each other and the experiences we have with each other in getting there and to the finish line together is very valuable. So we do really need to continue to inspire, to educate, and also collaborate. That's a huge one, no matter how hard it is with each other. And the Global Ambassador Program, that's what we're really here to do, is we are kind of existing in this space and laying the pavement as we're trying to exist in the world, and show others how we can be better if we work together with diverse people, support each other, especially women and minorities as well, and to tackle these challenges as we walk into the future of the 3D internet that helps us go beyond.
Thank you, Ariane. What a wonderful experience this has been. Thanks for your insights and learning about your work, and especially about your sentiments and your passions. Certainly, we enjoy not only your presence, but working together with our sleeves up. So let's thank Ariane for being with us and for taking the time. Look forward to seeing you in the future and working together.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This has been a Virtual World Society event. Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been a Virtual World Society event. You can learn more at virtualworldsociety.org. Please join. This is a nonprofit organization that is pushing the boundaries and limits and exploring all the possibilities and helping to manifest reality in virtual reality. So if I can be add a new tagline. Thank you, everyone. My name is Laurel. I'm with the Educators in VR. We produce this event. Thank you.